everybody, and thanks for joining us on KXAN Live. Will Dupree coming to you from the KXAN Live studio. Let's listen in as a news conference begins talking about a 30-year-old cold case here in Austin. One of the detectives who investigates this particular case is joining us now to give this update. Let's listen in.
Case Management Unit for the Austin Police Department. We're here to talk about a case that happened in 1994. May 12, 1994, the victim, Bert Allen Mann, came home to his residence at 2510 Stargrass Circle. When he came home, he met a burglar that was inside his house. A very violent encounter ensued in the foyer of the house. Mr. Mann ended up being stabbed multiple times and died there in that entryway to the house. During that altercation, the suspect was injured, and as he left the residence, he left his blood inside the residence for the homicide detectives who came to investigate the case to collect. In 2005, the Austin Police Department Cold Case Unit was established. At this time, they started going through old cases that had not been solved, looking at evidence. They realized that this case had a single source DNA profile, and this was sent off to DPS to have an original DNA profile completed on this. That profile was then uploaded into the CODIS system, which is the Combined DNA Index System. There are various reasons people have their DNA in this system. They could have committed another murder and then been released. They could be have been convicted of sexual assault. Our suspect was not in the CODIS system, so we were just left with a DNA profile. Fast forward to March of 2023, after having gone through many different detectives who investigated this case, there were over 40 suspects that were looked at, 40 subjects that were looked at in order to see if they were responsible for the death. In March of 2023, this single source DNA was sent to Bodhi Technology, which is a private lab. Bodhi Technology then sent us the results back in June of 2023 with an identified possible suspect, which is basically just a lead for us. They did this through genetic genealogy, which is the second case that APD has had result from using genetic genealogy. Detective Jednek received this information and the next couple of months worked to establish the whether or not this suspect was living in Austin at the time, had reason to be here, and once that was established, we tried to work with the Texas Rangers and DPS CID to get a surreptitious sample of the DNA from the suspect in this case. The suspect was living in Lubbock, Texas, and was a long-haul truck driver. We were not able to obtain the DNA surreptitiously to compare one-to-one with the sample that we had, and so Detective Jednek wrote up a search warrant for his DNA. Detective Jednek and another detective drove to Lubbock. They found the subject at his business place at the end of one of his shifts, served him with the search warrant, and took a sample of his DNA. At that time, the subject did not want to talk to my detective, and so we left information that if he wanted to reach out and contact us, to absolutely reach out. He did not. That was on September the 8th. On September the 13th, Detective Jednek was contacted by the owners of the trucking company that their truck had not moved suspiciously for a very long time, and it was a truck stop in Weatherford, Texas. Detective Jednek contacted the Weatherford Police Department to go and do a check welfare, where they found the subject deceased inside the cab of his truck. That suspect is Kenneth Wayne Robbins, who lived in Austin at the time. and was the person who was burglarizing Mr. Burt Allen Mann's house and killed him inside that residence. We received information shortly thereafter through autopsy that confirmed that the suspect, Kenneth Wayne Robbins, had in fact taken his own life. It's important to note that this is a 29-year-long investigation that had over 20 detectives that worked to try and come to the answer for the victim's family as to who was responsible for this. We are very lucky here at the Austin Police Department to work in concert with the case management unit, which is basically our translators of DNA and science to the rest of our investigations. There were numerous detectives that had a hand in this case. Sergeant now Perla Myers was also deeply involved in this investigation. And so I would like to personally thank them for their dedication and their perseverance to getting an answer for this family. Mr. Mann is survived by his wife and his sister, and they are happy enough to have an answer as to the who. I don't know that they will ever have an answer as to the why. And I don't know, quite honestly, if any of those answers would ever be sufficient for their grief. Any questions?
Was the subject found in the truck that he worked in?
He was.
And what wounds was he suffering from?
That I don't want to get into. I don't know that it's necessarily relevant. He took his own life.
DNA, I feel like that is just a game changer in a lot of this. Correct me if I'm wrong, but tell me how that's kind of helped with many cold cases, including obviously this one.
It's a piece. It's a tool. It's never quite an answer, so you want to get that information and continue your investigation from that point. So Detective Jednek gets information this could possibly be a suspect, but he still has to go and do the background work to shore that up and to say, yes, this person was here. He could have committed the crime. He had these other involvements, that type of thing. So it is definitely a tool in our toolbox. It's not the only thing we rely on. A lot of times we get information from people 10 and 15 years later who have had a fallout with whomever they were with, and they give us information that leads us to further investigating and identifying suspects in crimes.
How difficult? I was just going to say, how difficult was it to find this suspect all the way in Lubbock, Texas, not in Austin anymore, and kind of trace it to him?
Want to speak to that?
Not very difficult at all. No, it wasn't. It was pretty straightforward where he was and who he was.
When was that picture taken? Assume that's not what.
1993.
It's 1993. So the reason we're using this image is because it's as close to the time of the offense. This is what he would have looked like during that time when he killed Mr. Mann.
Was he arrested in 93 then?
He had a couple of arrests.
What they were?
Theft. Theft arrest. Nonviolent crimes.
And I don't know who it was that called the family, but can you kind of, describe to us kind of, what their reaction was when you called his widow and the daughter and said, hey, we figured out who this person is, and what was their reaction? What did they say?
They were happy. They were happy that they finally found out what happened, but not with the end result of him taking his life. But they were okay with it.
30 years is a while. What does it mean to y'all to continue to work on this and finally have answers for family to give them of the who, obviously not the why, but the who?
It's a good feeling, but it's also a good, I want to say, training for the next case and the next case, and you keep building on that training over and over again, and you get better and better. So as DNA progresses, so will the cases. So.
This is a very different unit. It takes a very different kind of detective to do this type of work, as opposed to other detective and investigative units in this department. These guys and gals come and work for me, and they may be working in that office for 2 or 3 years and have one result, as opposed to someone who comes in every day is able to file warrants because of video and all of these things. Oftentimes, they are faced with 1,000-page long investigations that take weeks, if not months, just to get through all of the investigation that was done prior to them receiving the case. They have to look at it with fresh eyes, try and find areas that were not looked at, and follow up leads that may not have been followed up on originally. And I mean, I'm in awe of them every day, the amount and type of work that they do, and just the sheer dedication with the small amount of return that they get for their investment. It's astonishing for me that they come in and do this work, and they're fantastic.
How many other cold cases would you say y'all are working on?
So I have 7 detectives. Everyone is assigned, everyone has a minimum of 4 cases. I have some that have 15. It just depends on their work style and the type of cases that they're actually investigating. With the side of that, they also are missing persons detectives. So when we have someone that goes missing, they have to drop everything that they're doing in the middle of their investigation and go deal with an urgent situation. And so that, combined with our backfill that we have to work, all of these things, I'd love to have more detectives in my unit to be able to do the work, but we're doing what we can with the people that we have now.
A few more questions. Could you kind of also, I know that this is a hypothetical now, but if he hadn't been in his own life, can you kind of walk us through, how that would work, what kind of charges you would bring to someone 30 years after a crime, and kind of how that justice would have to go through?
Detective Jednick had filed a capital murder warrant, and so he would have been arrested. It was filed, I believe it was filed.
Written, not filed. It was already written, but it wasn't filed yet.
And so he would have been charged with capital murder and brought back here to Travis County to answer to the charges with our court system here.
Last question. Are the wife and the sister, are they still in the Austin area when you guys inform them of this?
The wife, yes. Sister, no.
All right. Thank you so much.
Will Dupree back in the KXAN Live studio as we're showing you a picture of the now identified suspect from a almost 30-year-old cold case here in Austin. Police just said this man right here is responsible for this deadly stabbing of a South Austin man back in 1994. That suspect's name is Kenneth Wayne Robbins. And the cold case detective there that was just talking a few moments ago said that it was a DNA sample taken from that crime scene back on May 14th, 1994 that ultimately led them to this man right here almost 30 years later. However, this suspect took his own life not long after police were able to collect a DNA sample from him in September last year. So we wanted to share this update from police there. Again, the cold case we're talking about there, the victim's name is Bert Allen Mann. He died on May 14th, 1994. Police said that deadly stabbing happened at his home in South Austin on Stargrass Circle. Police said he encountered a person who had broken into his home, and during that encounter, the burglar had stabbed him. And now, all these years later, we're learning that the suspect has been identified as Kenneth Wayne Robbins. And police again said a few moments ago that he took his own life after police collected a DNA sample from him in September last year. We will continue our coverage of this big development in this cold case, including some insights that we got just a few moments ago about the kind of work that it takes for these detectives to continue to follow leads on some cases that are often decades old. And you can find that on our website, kxan.com, and on the KXAN News mobile app. Stay with us again for other updates throughout the day. Once again, I'm Will Dupree in the KXAN Live studio. We appreciate you being with us here this morning. We'll see you back here at another time. Hope you all stay safe and healthy out there. Take care.